see us with a grin, risking head and skin.
Tiger fans, welcome to the round 2 debrief after our bad loss against Port Adelaide. Wasn't a pretty game, was it? So Port Adelaide 21-14, 140 defeated Richmond 9-14, 68 by 72 points at Adelaide Oval. Look, it was not what we wanted. I suppose some people may have expected a loss like that. I think a lot of people were hoping that we were going to take in the form we had in the last 2 quarters of last week against Carlton into the game against Port Adelaide. But look, the reality is Port are a pretty decent side, and they were pretty embarrassed last week after their loss against Collingwood. So they were always going to come out firing and always going to be, pretty pumped and raring to go. It's just really unfortunate that we weren't able to match it with them in really any capacity across any part of the ground. And I think what was probably most frustrating for me and maybe everyone watching was the lack of support and the lack of fight from our senior players. I just felt there was a little bit lacking there. And when you've got such a young and inexperienced side, you really look towards your leaders and your senior players to set the tone and to get everything moving and to make sure everyone's doing the right things and setting the right examples. Just felt we didn't have that today against Port Adelaide, unfortunately. Jacob Hopper led the way with 24 disposals, but look, I know not everyone can get 25, 30 touches a game. It's not everyone's job to do that. But to only have Hopper and Short get 20-plus disposals as our only 2 players is just a real telltale sign that we just did not work anywhere near hard enough. And it was, a little bit flattening. But before we take a look at every player individually, make sure you like and subscribe for more Richmond content. It really helps the channel out. We love and appreciate all the support. We're heading towards 2,500. We're going to try and get there as quick as possible. But with that said, we'll take a look at the players individually. So Hopper, 24 disposals, 6 clearances. Look, he was probably our best midfielder on the day, but he was kind of a bit of a lone wolf there. He had some pretty good efforts in the second half, but still just didn't have that full game like he had last week. There's still a little bit missing there. Jaden Short, 21 disposals, 6 marks, 2 tackles, 2 clearances. Look, he did okay. I would have liked to have seen him take a few more kick-ins, to be honest. I'm not sure what the method was for having Miller do that. I'm sure there's some type of reason, but yeah, would like to see Shorty kick them a little bit longer out from full back. Ben Miller was our 3rd highest possession getter with 19 disposals. Now, I know a few of them would have come from the kickouts, just playing on, so I get that. But 6 marks as well for Ben Miller. Look, I thought he did okay. The defense, it's really hard to get a gauge on the defense in games like this when the pressure from the rest of the team doesn't stand up enough to help the defenders out, and it sometimes makes the defenders look a bit stupid, but it's not really their fault. So look, he probably lost a couple of one-on-one contests, but then, I don't know, there was something not quite right with our positioning in the defensive part of the ground. We were playing really far in front of our opponents, and Port were able to get out the back quite a few times and get just easy marks and shots on goal. So I don't know who was in charge of the organisational side of things, if it's dependent on the pressure up the ground as well. Like, I'm not too sure the flow-on effect, but it really didn't help someone like Ben Miller out. But yeah, hopefully we can rectify that for next week. Camden McIntosh, he only had 6 centre bounce attendances this week compared to about 20 last week, which I found fascinating. Look, he obviously did a really good job on Cripps last week, but didn't really seem to have a tagging job this week, which was really, really bizarre, given that Rosie got about 40 touches. So I'm not sure what the plan was there or why we didn't do it. Maybe it's because he had a yellow headband on a black headband. But yeah, Camden, I would have liked to have seen him do a proper tag roll. I would like to know why that didn't happen, but he has a crack each week. I just think that the role he gave him today wasn't an ideal role compared to last week, if that makes sense. Tim Taranto, look, he had a bit of a dirty day, didn't he, Tim Taranto? 17 disposals, 8 tackles, which was good, 4 clearances, but only 90 metres gained. Look, unfortunately, I'm not sure if there was an injury or something else going on there for Tim, but up until half-time, he had about only 3 or 4 disposals, and I literally hardly noticed him. And we just can't function as a footy side if we don't have our premier midfielders doing their thing. And look, I fully appreciate the 8 tackles and the 39 tackle for the game effort, but just not enough offensive effort. A lack of chase as well. Like I said, maybe he's got a niggle, I'm not too sure, but that was one of his worst games, I think. And I think he'll look back on this and hopefully bounce back next week with a bit more conviction. And yeah, we need to see a better version of Timmy Taranto next week, that's for sure. Ryan Mansell, 16 disposals, 3 marks, 6 tackles. 2 clearances. Obviously copped that shoulder injury late as well, which is really, really unfortunate. You know you're going to get 110% from Mansell every week. He chases hard. I wouldn't have mind seeing him in the midfield a little bit more, just when things weren't going our way, just to try and mix it up a bit. But yeah, hopefully he can come back. Look, I don't know the extent of the shoulder injury, but it'd be shit if he was out, because he's one of our... Because you know he's going to give you effort and consistency and aggression across 4 quarters that, yeah, hopefully becomes infectious. So hopefully he's all right. Thompson Dow, 15 disposals, 4 marks, 2 tackles, 3 clearances. Look, not as many tackles as last week, obviously, with 9, but I thought he was quite tidy when he had the ball in close with some good releasing handballs. I think he stood under a ball at one point to take a mark, and Nank absolutely smashed through him, so that took a bit of courage to stand there. And hopefully he's all right from that, because Nank is a big unit to have run through you. But yeah, look, again, probably just our midfield as a collective just wasn't quite working well today. So yeah, there's not much more to say on that front. Nick Voston, 14 disposals, 4 marks, 1 tackle, 2 clearances. I felt it was almost a bit of a nothing game. Like, he didn't do anything wrong, but I don't think, but didn't do massive things either. Unfortunately, he and a lot of the other defenders were under the pump for most of the game, so not much he can really do to change that. Tom Brown, 14 disposals, 5 marks, 1 clearance. Again, probably didn't notice him too much in the early stages of the game. Worked his way into it, had a few nice spoils towards the end, and a really nice pass inside 50 along the boundary line, which was really, really good. So he just needs to use his weapons a bit more, being his kicking, because I think that's where he can cause the most damage for us. Toby Nankervis, 13 disposals, no marks, no tackles, would you believe? 39 hitouts and 8 clearances. Look, I don't know what to make of that game, because typically Nank gets marked, and he definitely, like, more often than not, he's top 2 or 3 for us in tackles. So the fact he didn't lay a tackle today really surprises me, and I'm not sure the reason why, whether it's a work rate thing, an effort thing, whether he was too worried about Jordan Sweet going the other way. I'm not too sure, but what also didn't help Nank's game is Port's midfield's ability to read his taps better than our own midfielders. It just didn't help. So, look, that's not Nank's fault, but hopefully he can get on the mark and tackle board next week, because we need him bashing and crashing. Steely Green, 13 disposals, 2 marks, 253 metres gained. Had a couple of nice moments where he got the ball and found himself into space to bite off a good 45-degree kick to open the game up. I'd love to see him hit the scoreboard, but he's really working his way in. I can see what he's trying to do and what he could get to. Just want to see him a bit more involved on the scoreboard front. But again, it was probably a difficult day for our smalls as well. Maybe he's another one who could rotate through the midfield at some stage if things aren't going our way, just to shake it up. Seth Campbell, 13 disposals, 1 mark, 2 tackles, 2 goals. I thought he was the best of our small forwards today. You can see he's going to be a very good player. We need to get him to 60, 70 games as quick as possible. Very good turn of foot and speed. He turned Aussierules inside out. Good goal sense. And I think he's going to be a really good player for us in the future. Jacob Blight, 12 disposals, 5 marks, 2 tackles, 2 hitouts, 4 clearances. I thought without doubt he was our best player in the third quarter. The movement to the ruck was really, really good. A lot better than Bauer. He's got good mobility, good size, good athleticism. He can run all day. And he's hungry. Like, he wants to get to those contests. He's really aggressive in there as well. And then to throw him forward in the scene, presenting well, taking strong marks. Obviously kicked his first goal for the club, which was amazing. He might have given himself a new lease of life. When Bolter comes in, maybe Jacob Blight can venture forward. I think we might see something there. Harry Armstrong, 12 disposals, 5 marks, 2 goals. Look, he was probably pretty quiet for the first 3 quarters. But the last quarter, he really come to life. Got reward for his effort, kicked a couple of goals. And I'm so happy for him, because he started clunking some grabs. And hopefully that does his confidence the world of good, because it's good reward for effort for him the last couple of weeks. So well done, Harry Armstrong. Hopefully we get a bit more of that. Jack Ross, 11 disposals, 3 marks, 2 tackles, 2 clearances, but only 79 metres gained. He was in the negative metres gained for quite a while as well. And look, realistically, we only had one midfielder firing a shot today, and that was Jacob Hopper. So unfortunately, with Ross and Taranto playing absolute horrid games, there's no way you're going to win a game when you've got 2 midfielders not firing a shot. And he'll be dirty on his game. He had one of his best games last week, and it's gone polar opposite this week. So part of his development and growth is to bridge the gap between those best and worst games. And granted, it's probably a bit of a collective effort between the whole midfield. We just need him to get back to the Jack Ross of last week, because we're not going to go forward fast, with a midfield that's lacking. Luke Trainer, 10 disposals, 2 marks, 1 tackle. You know he's got a bit of fight and a bit of passion in him, don't you? Like, he loves the contest, loves getting in amongst them when there's a bit of push and shove going on. He was right in the thick of it, actually. I think Rosie had to drag him off literally by the collar. Showed some good composure again. Almost, I reckon he had a shot at goal. When Harry Armstrong marked that in the goal square at the end, I reckon Trainer was having a shot and it just didn't make the distance. But showed he had some still good legs late in the game. And look, you got to keep playing him. Just got to keep playing him. Sammy Lawler, 10 disposals, 4 marks, 4 tackles, 1 clearance, 1 goal. And what a beautiful goal it was. 55 metres off 2 steps effortlessly. Like, it looked like he hardly kicked it. Just timed it really, really well. Found himself in another really good spot there. I think we want to start seeing some more increased midfield minutes, although I completely understand why that may not be possible because of managing loads and things like that. That's probably very much from a selfish perspective. We want to see more midfield minutes, but you can tell, like, he had a couple of don't argues, was showing still some good signs of being strong in a contest, but just needs to get a bit more involved. But that was just the theme of the day for all of them, so it's not just really isolated to him. James Trezise, 9 disposals, 1 mark, 1 clearance. Didn't have the same game as last week. I think he might have picked up a bit of a knock and a huge spoiling attempt where he punched the ball and then got up, ended a bit, landed on his hip. So hopefully he's okay. I just want to see him get a bit more of the footy. He's a good user of the ball, but just couldn't get involved as much as what he did last week. Nathan Broad, the milestone man, 150 games, 8 disposals, 6 marks, 1 tackle. Similar to Vlosten, probably didn't have the best game, but probably also a victim of circumstance with the lack of pressure being applied by midfielders meant our defenders were under the pump massively with a lot of inside 50 easy ball for Port. So I don't want to hold that against him too much, to be honest. Jacob Bauer, 8 disposals, 3 marks, 1 hit out, and he got a goal as well. So good to see him hit the scoreboard. I was liking that he was throwing himself around at big pack marks at the end. So, because if he wasn't marking it, he was bringing it to ground, which was really good to see. I think the ruck experiment's over. We can't keep doing that. It's actually quite dangerous for him, to be honest. So don't do that anymore, please. I just don't know if he will hold his spot with Fawcett and Armstrong playing okay as well, with Lynch coming back. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that space, but good to see him score a goal. Sam Banks, 8 disposals, 2 tackles, 1 clearance. Obviously went off with concussion, so kind of hard to judge his game because of that. But hopefully he gets through the concussion protocol in 14 days and can hopefully get back and bounce back and play well. Caleb Smith, who came on as the sub, 7 disposals, 3 marks, 1 clearance, 196 metres gained. I thought he did okay when coming on. He usually does have good skills. I think he hit a couple of nice targets. He's just one of those players that, do we want to see him in a more permanent role? Do you want to see, like, is he going to be sub again next week, or will he go back to the VFL and have a full game? Be interesting to see what we do there. But I think he's definitely one persisting with for sure. And finally, Liam Fawcett, 5 disposals, 2 marks, and a goal on debut, which is amazing for him to kick that goal in front of his home crowd. A 55-metre bomb, if you don't mind, marks the ball and then just wheels around and just roosts it. Beautiful kick. He's done it in the VFL before, so that was no surprise he backed himself in. The other mark he took up on the wing, grabbed it at the highest point, really strong mark. You'd love to see it. So has he done enough to play again next week? Look, I'm not sure, but he's definitely putting his best foot forward to show that he's going to be a player for the future. And I've got no doubt we will see more of Liam Fawcett in the years to come. So that's the player side of things. Onto the team stat stuff very quickly. There's probably only 2 or 3 stats that I really want to highlight that were probably alarming, to be honest. The first one is the marks stat. So Port Adelaide took 133 marks compared to our 70, which is not a great differential to have. Marks inside 50, 19 to 8. 19's a huge number, and yeah, that's we have to somehow rectify that. But the big one, uncontested possessions. Port Adelaide had 353 uncontested possessions to our 174. So that, along with us only getting 39 tackles in the game, to me, it just screams a work rate issue. We just weren't working hard enough for each other. I don't know if it was the heat. I don't know if it was just tired legs or what it was, but there just wasn't that same drive and same pressure that we saw last week, which absolutely killed our game plan, because our whole game plan revolves around being able to team defend and zone off and push up to cover each other and things like that. And as soon as there's a whole line like the midfield not doing that, it pretty much throws the whole rest of the game plan out. And that's why we saw Port players in so much space and why the defenders were so caught out time and time again, because there was just no work rate up and down the field from really anybody, to be honest. And look, as shit as that is, the positive is it's probably it's something that's fixable, right? It's fixable, but it's a mental thing. So it's going to be up to the coaches this week to really get that driven into them, that what they did on that front was not acceptable. And that's not a Richmond game plan. That type of lack of work rate is not what we want to rock up to and watch each week, because that won't be copped by the fans, I can assure you. Look, as a one-off, we're going to have inconsistencies, I get it, but there's no reason to not work hard. And given we didn't have the ball for a lot of the game, to only get 39 tackles is a bit of a blight on it, to be honest, given we had 76 the week before in a more 50-50 contest by the end of it. So anyway, that is my little mini rant about the lack of work rate. Look, it's easy to say in the cheap seats in the stands, I get it. But, you know, as a supporter, you just want to see effort. You want to see work rate, because those things, any of those players can do. You don't need to be a number one draft pick, or you don't need to be a high-end recruit to show work rate. Everyone can do that out there. It's just an application thing. So hopefully we see that rectified for St Kilda. That's my thoughts for the game. Let us know what you think about the game in the comments below. And hopefully we can come back next week with a bit more of a better debrief. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you for the next one. Go Tigers.